We have an understanding of what is evil and what's not based upon what causes people pain and takes away their freedom. But those things, if you believe in God, did not have to exist in the first place. We could have all just been free, period, end of story, and not had any evil inclinations. God created us with the inclination to do evil. That was his doing. Or at least some of us to do evil. I'm perfect. I don't ever commit evil. So, as an atheist, I don't believe in God. I don't think God is real. But in as far as he may be, I think that he's evil. I think he's a dick. And that's because if you ascribe to the notion that God is all good, all-knowing, and all-powerful, that's impossible. Like, he can't be all three of those things. He can only be all three of those things if you think that the suffering in the world is part of the good. And I'm sorry, but cancer is not good. Hitler was not good. There are plenty of things that are not good in this world. Wasps and mosquitoes, horrible, horrible creatures. Why did God make those things besides just to f with us, right? They don't even contribute that much to the ecosystem, but I digress. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is because I found this guy, Elijah Zelke, all right? He's a little bit smaller than I am, but I'm starting to care less and less about like whether or not a creator is actually smaller than me, just because like, I'm sorry, like you put your shit up on the internet and I have the right to critique it. So Elijah Zelke here, says, when someone says God is evil, say this. Now, he's going to be, I guess, reacting to somebody else. But I found his content first, and so I'm going to be going over his content where he reviews somebody else's content. And we'll just critique both of their words, I guess. Okay, let's get going.
Next time someone says that God is evil, you can tell them this.
Suppose it's all true.
What's up with the blurriness, man? I mean, I have that problem too sometimes, to be fair. But... ooh, he's got his kitchen. Okay, he's got a little bit of a homey background here. I kind of like it. I wouldn't have picked the kitchen. I think that the living room is a little bit more cozy. But not bad. Not bad. It looks authentic.
That God is evil, you can tell them this.
The camera clearly likes the background better.
And you walk up to the pearly gates and you are confronted by God. What will Stephen Fry say to him, her, or it?
I will basically...
Stephen Fry.
It's known as theodicy. I think I'd say bone cancer in children. What's that about?
True.
How dare you? How dare you create a world in which
Agreed.
there's such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain? That's what I'd say.
And you think you're going to...
So you can see right there, he has a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, and he has a lot of questions for God. Why?
You don't have to have a lot of hurt and a lot of pain yourself in order to recognize the hurt and pain that other people have. You can look at other people. See, this is an entirely selfish point of view, my friend. You can look at other people suffering and understand that like that's not a good thing, even if you yourself are not suffering.
Why is there terrible stuff happening to this world? Continue to watch because there is an answer for you today.
Get in like that?
But I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to get in on his terms. They're wrong. Now, if I died and it was Pluto, Hades, and if it was the 12 Greek gods, then I would have more truck with it, because the Greeks they didn't pretend not to be human in their appetites and in their capriciousness and in their unreasonableness. They didn't present themselves as...
They also didn't present themselves as like all-powerful, but that's kind of what he's getting at too, so I'll let him continue.
Being all-seeing, all-wise, all-kind,
yeah, exactly.
all-beneficent. Because the God who created this universe, if it was created...
They didn't lie to us.
Quite clearly a maniac. Utter maniac. Totally selfish.
Same with Kemetic gods?
We have
I don't
to
know
spend
Kemetic
our
gods.
life on our knees thanking him?
Egyptian?
What kind
Gotcha.
of God would do that? Yes, the world is very splendid, but it also has in it insects whose whole life cycle is to burrow into...
But it's not about we have to spend our whole life on our knees thanking him. It's about we get to spend our whole life.
No, you want to. I want to live my own damn life.
On our knees.
So you can waste your time doing that.
He is so good.
Have fun.
Continue to watch because the answer is coming.
Eyes of children.
You also say, by the way, that those who don't go to hell. Okay? So I don't want to hear that shit.
Make them blind. They
Oh, we
eat
get to.
outwards
Yeah,
from
okay.
the eyes.
What happens if you don't?
Why? Why did you do that to us? You could easily have made a creation in which that didn't exist. It is simply not acceptable.
I agree.
You know, atheism is not just about not believing not believing there's a God, but on the assumption that there is one. What kind of God is he? It's perfectly apparent that he is monstrous, utterly monstrous.
Yes, because if you read, he's right. Because if you read the scripture, I've said this so many times now in the recent past. The scripture presents him as a dickbag. Okay, literarily speaking, if you don't take that lesson from him, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, that's the only lesson you can take from him, from that book. Like, as far as God goes, as far as like his personality goes, I mean. I appreciate that he stopped in the middle of his video to tell you that the video will continue. Who? This guy?
And deserves no
didn't catch
respect
that.
whatsoever. The moment you banish him, your life becomes simpler, purer, cleaner.
I agree.
More worth living.
It sure did.
Opinion.
That sure is the longest answer to that question that I ever got in this entire series.
Let me just say to begin with that I totally
Wait, we have a third one? Or a fourth, I guess, right? Because the third one would be this guy reacting. Okay. So wait, he's just watching people that he agrees with and reacting to them? Why don't I just watch this guy, man?
understand why Stephen's sentiments resonate
see what he
with so
adds.
many people. If an all-powerful God made the world, would that not make God, as stated by Stephen Fry, utterly evil? Stephen instead chooses, rather than believing in that, to believe that things simply are as they are. The world just is as it is. But at the same time, he seems very angry about it, and he seems angry at God for it. So
As
the
you should
question
be.
becomes, does
And as far as God is real, yes, you should be angry.
this response in the face of evil actually make sense, and does it actually take us anywhere? In other words,
Yes.
does it actually solve the problem of evil? In order to answer this question, let's go to John Lennox now.
Well, wait.
I'll let him take it away.
Well, wait. It's not a. Oh, we got more people. Okay, cool. So, it's not a matter of whether or not you're solving the problem. It's recognizing the source of the problem. Okay, and if you believe that God is real, and you believe that God created everything, that means that God created cancer. God impregnated a 12-year-old against her will. Yes, exactly. God killed children in the Bible. Exactly. Thank you, chat. Exactly. Okay, God told you, get on your knees and worship me or I'll send you to hell. God's kind of a dick, man. And it's okay to recognize that. Just because it doesn't fix anything doesn't mean you can't recognize that, if he is in fact real, which I don't believe he is.
Around the world, I find these days, and it's very interesting, even this week, I've been asked to speak
This
on
guy's
the
just
problem of
people
evil
watching.
twice out of 4. Because I find
Add
that
commentary,
people are
man.
hurting, they're looking for answers, and they find their friends suffering either with a natural catastrophe like a brain tumor, or they're raped, or they're abused in some way, and they're desperately trying to come to terms with it. I find it a very hard problem. It's the hardest problem I face. And I do not think
As it should be.
atheism solves it, except in a fairly trivial way. It says,
Solves
well, that's
it.
just how the world is. But you see,
Yeah, because that makes a lot more sense. That makes so much more sense. Yeah, suffering exists because that's just the way of the world, man. That's how evolution dicked us over, okay? Because evolution doesn't care about you, and it doesn't pretend to care. It's just a force of nature, all right? It stuck you on this planet. It started you out as bacteria. It evolved until it got to you, all right? And the evolution process, as I said several times in my last one of my last uploads that I just watched over and explained very poorly, evolution is a pretty shittily run process, you know? Like, it does its job, but only barely. Why do we have back pain and knee pain when we get to a certain age? You know, why is my hairline receding? And that actually is not good for finding a mate, you know? Like, there are all kinds of questions you can ask. But what makes sense, though, is that evolution is just a shitty process that doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about anything. It's just a force of nature, is my point. And it makes way more sense than like this all-loving, all-knowing God. How many levels of reaction are we in? Well, technically, okay, so we got the guy, we got that one guy, right? They can see in the bottom there, reacting to 2 different people, that this guy is reacting to. So I'm reacting to this guy, reacting to the other guy, reacting to 2 other people. Or I guess this would make it 5 people, because there was 2 people in the first clip and 3 people in this one.
See, what
A lot of
atheism
characters in
doesn't
this
do
arc.
is it doesn't remove the
Too many
pain
filler
and the suffering.
characters.
And I'm faced very often with people who've just been given a few weeks to live or months to live. And they want answers. They want to put this into a big picture, and I can understand that. And if I didn't feel there was any way
I always start my
into
stream
this
slow.
question, I wouldn't sit here for a millisecond.
Gotta rev it up.
I wouldn't sit here for a millisecond.
Hold on, I wasn't listening.
And I can understand that. And if I didn't feel there was any way into this question, I wouldn't sit here for a millisecond. I
Okay.
wouldn't sit here
Then
for a
answer it.
millisecond.
Stop with all the filler. Answer it.
Because my heart really goes out to people who are on the rough end of suffering. And the problem with our world is
Okay.
that we can argue about God being all good, all powerful, and if he was this, he could do that. And none of us has ever been satisfied with that kind of an argument, as I think you were essentially pointing out.
Yeah, so
And
answer
that's
the
because
question.
when we've done all the philosophical arguing, we're presented with 2 things that I call beauty and barbed wire. We're presented with a mixed world and a mixed picture. And we have to
Yes,
try
an
to make
imperfect
sense
world
of
from
it.
a supposedly created God,
Now,
perfect God.
I would claim that atheism superficially appears to have a solution, but deep down there's
No,
no
it's not
solution
about the
because
solution.
It leaves the suffering. The suffering doesn't go away, but it removes all.
You're doing the same thing. They redirect the question to how do we get rid of the suffering? The question is not how do we get rid of the suffering. The question is why did your God allow it in the first place? Okay? There shouldn't be any suffering to fix if your God's perfect. All right? So stop with redirecting the question.
Hope.
You don't believe
not
in
my
there's a
job.
God? There is literally no hope. It's pointless. Life is meaningless. There's no point.
What are you talking about? I love my life. I don't believe in God, and I love my life. You know why? Because I only have a little bit of time on this earth to live it. So I'm going to love every moment of it to the best of my ability. I'm going to crochet my little toys that people enjoy, right? I'm going to do my little stream, do a little bit of workouts when I actually feel like it, and flex my little biceps, you know, that are insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. And then I'll die. And on my deathbed, hopefully I can say, you know what? It was short, and there's nothing after it, but I was here for the good stuff. You know, I enjoyed the good stuff. And now my consciousness will dip back into the collective consciousness of the universe that I personally think is there, but I don't know if it's actually there. I don't have any proof. But that's kind of what I think happens, in a sense. I would love to see someone call out their BS to their face like that. Well, this guy's smaller than I am. I mean, he'll probably watch this, if we're being real. And also, dude, if you do watch this, actually react to this shit, like on your own. Like go like find something that you personally disagree with and go react to it. Don't just sit here and watch other people for 5 minutes until you finally add commentary. You've literally added commentary twice in 5 minutes. I didn't do that. I'm just saying. This better be good. It better be a good long tangent you got.
Point to keep on going on if you feel hopeless, because there's no God. There's no one to turn to besides yourself. And yourself is pretty disappointing sometimes, not gonna lie. But with God,
What?
there is hope.
Speak for yourself, pretty boy, all right? I find myself pretty amazing.
There is a reason to live. And I'm just super excited because he's getting into what is next. What's the point? What's the reason? What's this amazing solution?
And to the point, because I think this is
That was it? You didn't add anything to the conversation, man. Why are you even doing this video? What's the point of this? It's so stupid. I might as well just watch the other guy.
a huge
You're just
question
stealing his
and
views.
deserves a lengthy time devoted to it. I
Then
arrived in
then
Christchurch,
start
New
devoting
Zealand,
it.
2 days
Go.
after the earthquake. I had to meet people who lost their husbands or their wives.
Still no
And
answer.
every interview I did on radio and
Just
television
redirect
was
and
earthquakes. Why?
avoid the
And that's a
question.
very difficult question, because earthquakes are necessary for the preservation of human life. And when you
What?
factor that in,
Why?
there comes
Hold on, why? First of all, I don't even disagree with that premise. They might be, but why? Like, is your God so imperfect that he had to create an entire natural phenomenon that kills people in the process of saving other people? Doesn't sound like a very perfect God to me. Not on a small scale. Right, I understand that like earthquakes led to the land formations and the climate that we have today. But like, That's a historical thing. Like modern day earthquakes, like individually, the process of the earthquakes taking form led to where we are today. The process of the earthquakes formed the earth as it is today that led to us being able to exist on the earth. But current day earthquakes don't help us really at all, at least not to my understanding.
Comes a huge question. Could God not have made a world in which this kind of thing doesn't happen?
Yes,
Couldn't
good
he have
question.
made a world in which
Let's answer it.
human beings don't do these awful things to one another? Well, the answer to the latter question is, of course he could. We can make such
Yes.
worlds. They're called robotic worlds, but there are
What?
no humans in them. We're wishing.
What the kind of answer is that? What? No, that world is called a world without earthquakes. Guess what a world without earthquakes would be? A world with less suffering. Like, what kind of answer is... No, I reject that answer completely. That's such a stupid answer.
Wishing ourselves out of existence.
Yeah,
if
heaven
we
is...
say
Yeah,
could-
exactly. That would make heaven a robotic world. Thank you, Ezreal. That's a great point. What are you saying that like when you get to heaven, you just like get washed of all your like free will and all of your like if suffering is necessary to be happy, then what does that make heaven? It makes it a robotic world, according to you. Excellent point.
Could God not have made a world in which people are incapable of doing evil? Because evil is the flip side of the capacity to do good.
But evil as we understand it only exists because if you believe in God, evil as we understand it, God created evil as we understand it. He could have made people without the inclination to commit evil. Or, let's put it this way, he could have made evil without making murder. Okay? You can still do evil things without murdering people. He could have made evil without making torture a thing. Okay? Like torture is impossible. Maybe you can end somebody's life, but you can't torture him to death, right? Because pain is a thing. Or pain wouldn't be a thing, I mean. You could make pain not a thing. You could make suffocating to death not a thing. Suffering could just not be a thing. Okay? So you can water down the evil, like, or you can add evil to the equation, okay? Imagine like super murder. You kill somebody twice over. You kill somebody, bring them back to life, kill them again. Super murder. That's not possible either. That must be because God is so good that he didn't make it possible to bring people back to life so that we can murder them again. Right? We have an understanding of what is evil and what's not based upon what causes people pain and takes away their freedom. But those things, if you believe in God, did not have to exist in the first place. We could have all just been free, period, end of story, and not had any evil inclinations. God created us with the inclination to do evil. That was his doing. Or at least some of us to do evil. I'm perfect. I don't ever commit evil. Super theft, yeah. Super theft is based. I believe you would, because if heaven is real, you're only allowed to feel happiness, joy, and pleasure. You couldn't feel sorrow, pain, or loss. And you would have loss in heaven. Everyone will make it in. If everyone makes it in. You would have loss in heaven. Not everyone will make it in. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, you would basically be a robot because, like, you would go to heaven, but your family members would go to hell. And then, like, you're just, like, happy-go-lucky, haha, I'm in heaven, everybody, look at me, hoo-wee. And then, like, your son who is estranged from you goes to hell because he was a degenerate pig and whatever. Pain is a survival response? Yes, but it doesn't have to be. You could have had a survival, like, try to think outside the box. Christians never do this. Try to think outside the box. Imagine a world where you have a survival response that does not involve pain. You know? I mean, there are animals that exist that don't feel pain. You guys know that, right? Like, sponges and jellyfish do not have nervous systems. They can't feel pain. And yet they can react to things that threaten their survival. Why? Okay? You just don't need it. You don't need it in order to have survival instincts. And why do you need survival instincts in the first place if you're a perfect God? Just make a perfect little world for your perfect little humans to live their perfect little lives in. None of it makes any sense. Let's not even mention that the all-knowing aspect of it makes it even worse. God deliberately chose this in the first place. God knew all of this would happen. To the extent that he is real, God knew that everything that is happening, that ever has happened, that ever will happen, happens. Okay? He knew all of this. It's part of his perfect plan. They even say it. It's God's plan. Trust God's plan. Yeah, it's a test. Why does he need to test us? He created us.
And so the deep question
I don't test
for
my
me
plush dolls.
is this. Granted that there's beauty in barbed wire, is there any evidence anywhere in the universe that there is a God who could be trusted with it? And my very brief answer, Betsy, to that is this, that at the heart of Christianity, there is a cross. And whatever that tells you, if the central claim of Christianity is correct, that Jesus is God incarnate, then that's God on a cross. And I asked myself the question, what's God doing on a cross? Well, one thing it tells you is that God has not remained distant from the problem of human suffering, but has himself become part of it.
If I kidnap you and I stick you in a basement and chain you to a radiator, and then I feed you shit, and then I chain myself next to you and also eat the shit, does that make what I did okay? Because I don't think that it did. I think that just makes me a psycho. So what you're saying is that your God is not only a torturous psycho, but a masochist psycho as well. He's a masochist as well as a sadist. Very good. Very good. That's the element we were missing, is that he's also... Don't worry, guys, he's a masochist, you see. So that he suffered alongside us. That makes it okay that he created the concept of suffering in the first place. Good job.
If we want God to get rid of all of the evil, then he would have to get rid of all of us. Like, we do bad things. We're not always good. Therefore, technically, he would have to get rid of us. But
did God create the evil or not? God is the creator of all things, right? So he must have created the evil. So you either have to see God didn't create all things, which would make a lot more sense, by the way. I actually think that it would be much more logical if there were things outside of God's control. Just say that there are things outside of God's control, and then you have a logical narrative, okay? But they'll never admit that. They can't, because that would mean that God's not all-powerful. But he is all-powerful. That means he created evil, okay? So either God did not create evil, which means he's not all-powerful, or God did create evil because he is all-powerful and he's also a dick.
But on the flip side, also what he's talking about is God didn't just become distant. He integrated himself by sending his son Jesus to die on the cross.
He's a
for your
pervert.
sins.
He's a masochist.
Put him in a place
What is it? Sadomasochist. He's a sadist, masochist pervert
of suffering. He experienced the worst of the sufferings that anyone could experience.
The worst of the sufferings that he himself created for people to experience. So he created the circumstances, just like I created the circumstances when I kidnapped you, locked you in my basement, and locked myself also in the basement with you, and fed us both delicious piles of shit, okay? That is me creating the circumstances in which both of us suffer. You're not going to get on your knees and worship me after I chain you in my fucking basement and make you eat shit just because I chain myself right next to you and eat shit alongside you. That does not make me worthy of worship. That makes me worthy of a psych ward, far away from you and your family.
On the cross, so that he can say, I know what you're going through. I've been there. I've experienced things that maybe you could never even experience because Jesus loves you so much. And that's what's amazing about God.
The story, I would have nowhere to go.
He loves you so
But it's
much,
not
he
the
made
end
you
of the
suffer
story.
and suffered alongside
The
you.
central evidence for the truth of Christianity is the
Don't worry, he
resurrection
suffered
of
along.
Jesus
He
from
ate the
dead.
shit next to
And that
you.
opens up the
With you.
huge possibility that ultimately justice is going to be done.
Is this not on Twitch? Twitch.
And when we're talking about ethics
They can
and
kiss my ass.
morality, this, to my mind, is the most important factor in this
Twitch is fine with having at least one sexual harasser on their site, so I'm not on Twitch anymore.
situation, that justice is going to be done. And I put it to Richard Dawkins.
I put in several reports. They did not
It's
take
just
his
the first
channel
thing
down.
that comes into my head. And he said, well, I fight for justice in this life. I said, so do I. But Richard, you've no ultimate hope of justice. So that the vast majority of people who've ever lived never had justice in this life.
True.
And there's no future existence for them to get justice in, so they're never going to get justice. And their cry for justice from the gas chambers of Auschwitz or anywhere else is proved to be an illusion. I simply don't believe that. And
Why
I
not?
believe there's
It's
evidence
an
that
unfair
the
world.
contrary is true. There is a God who will ultimately do fair.
It's because you're a pussy. Because you can't believe that there is just simply sometimes no justice. Sometimes there is just no justice. Okay? It's not always a just and fair and cozy, comfy world that you want to live in. okay? The one that you want to live in. It's not like that. And just because you think that there's an afterlife where people get their justice doesn't mean that it's real. That's just something that you imagined, okay? Sometimes there's no justice, and we just have to be fine with that and live our lives the best we can.
Fairness. So I
quit
think
being a
that's
pussy.
not a
That is so good. So he's
No, it's
saying
not.
also that because Jesus
Oh, thanks.
did die
You know, I didn't quite understand what he said, so I'm glad that you're here. What's his name again? Mr. Elijah Zelke. Because I have 2 IQ points total, and I'm not entirely sure what he just said. So I'm glad that he's here, Mr. Femboy Extraordinaire over here, to explain what just happened. Or I guess not a femboy, he's more of a twink.
the cross, and then he did rise again, there is hope for justice. For all these bad things that happen in the world, for all of the terrible things that happen, there will be justice. The Hitlers of the world and all the people who were tortured to death or who just...
No sex pest on YouTube? Listen, it was a personal grudge that I had. And also, YouTube's just better anyway. I don't need Twitch.
Gone through so much pain and suffering, there will be justice.
Twitch is going down the shitter.
God. If there is no God, there won't be justice. And these people who did bad things, there's no consequences to them. But the people who did do bad things, and if there is a God, there...
You see, the people who wronged you won't suffer if there's no God. Just think about it. Don't you want the people who hurt you to go to hell forever? Don't you want them to be tortured? Hello? This is my worldview, where a perfect and all-loving God would send the people who stole your lunchbox out of the fridge at work goes to hell forever. Okay? Don't you want that? Isn't that something that you personally want? Because you're just as in the head as I am? Hello?
There will be justice.
Good point, man.
And they will be judged for the things that they've done. And that is the hope in God.
Solution to the problem of evil.
That is the hope, that
But I
people will
believe it's a
suffer.
powerful way in
Torture,
because I've seen
torture.
it
This
change
is
lives and give
normal.
people hope.
The atheist paradox presented in this video.
Oh, this guy again.
By acknowledging the existence
Funny, this guy actually barely talked at all, too. It was mostly... So we got this guy talking for the vast majority of it. And then these three are on the screen for like almost 10 minutes. And then this guy comes back. Do they all just do this?
of evil, atheist
This is like Christian react incest here.
implicitly recognize a moral standard by which actions or events are judged as evil. In other words, to call something evil, you must have an idea of what is good. So the fact that we can actually recognize evil when we see
Good is when people have freedom and avoid suffering. Evil is when you inflict suffering onto others by taking away their freedom or inflicting pain. I mean, that's simplified. I'm sure you could like pick that apart, but just off the top of my head, I feel like it's a pretty simple explanation. And those concepts are good because I don't personally want evil things happening to me. Okay, I like having freedom. I like not being hurt. All right? So people who would impede upon my freedom or try to hurt me without my consent, mind you, are being evil toward me.
see it points to God, because in order to be able to recognize evil, it suggests that there is a moral.
That's why I don't watch React content. Brother, you're watching my content. I understand your point, though. That's why I try not to react to people I agree with. We do have consequences. It's called bullet. We don't want them tortured. We just want them removed from the world, which is called death. Not necessarily even removed from the world. Unless you're saying... Like, I don't want evil people necessarily removed from the world. I feel like that's a second best option. The first best option is rehabilitation. Like, I want evil people to be rehabilitated. But if they can't be rehabilitated, then I want them separated from society. And if they can't be kept separated from society, then you kill them. Like, that's the best you can do. Because if they can't be kept separated from society, and they also can't control their evil urges, then they'll probably be... Then there's nothing else to do but kill them. But that's like third best. Second best, keep them away from society. First best, rehabilitate.
Order. It suggests that there is a moral law and therefore a source for that law, a lawgiver. Now, to address this paradox, atheists might...
There's no anti-religious shit going on in here. Listen, I've gone back and forth with my community about anti-religion stuff, anti-theism. I don't call myself an anti-theist. Unfortunately, I'm an atheist, and I believe that there's no like infinite God, force, whatever you want to call it, outside of my current world. And I came to that understanding through what I feel is a very logical reflection of my views. So sometimes a little bit of anti-theism leaks out. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to avoid that. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. That's just how it is. I think you can be religious without being a piece of shit. So if that's you, if you're religious and not a piece of shit, you're welcome here. Just don't be a piece of shit. And I'm sorry if I get anti-theist, but it just happens sometimes. You know, and it also is confused a lot with anti-apologist rhetoric.
Might adopt one of the following positions. You might hear that moral values are relative but not objective. But
I
this
need to go back, sorry.
law, and therefore a source for that law, a lawgiver. Now, to address this
That
paradox,
does no. People who decide the people who decide morality are us. We decide what's moral, and we do that based off of what we think is good for ourselves. Okay? I like freedom. I like not being hurt. Therefore, I think other people should have freedom and other people should also not be hurt.
atheists might adopt one of the following positions. You might hear that moral values are relative but not objective. But this undermines the argument from evil because it erases the concept of evil. So if there isn't really evil, then what are we even talking about? What is Stephen?
How does it erase the concept of evil? Hold on.
Are relative but not objective.
Moral values are relative but not
this
objective.
undermines the argument from evil because it erases the concept of evil. So if
No, it just means that evil is also, what did he say?
values are relative,
It just means that evil is also relative, which it is. Which it is. Evil is relative. Okay? It's all relative to what humanity finds to be good and evil. Okay? In a world where nobody thinks slavery is evil, including the slaves themselves, is slavery even evil? There's no way to assess that because there's nobody around who thinks that it's bad. You know? So, like, in that sense, it's subjective.
erases the concept of evil. So if there isn't really evil, then what are we even talking about? What is Stephen
It's a fantasy world,
even
but
mad
nonetheless.
at God for? And so on.
That's so good. And I want to speak to the person who is hurting, who has so much pain, who's gone through so much and they don't know why. And they just can't.
Dude, it's not a matter of me personally feeling pain, which I have, okay? Not like to the extent that other people have, but I've had people die on me, all right? I have to work a shitty job sometimes. My job these days isn't as shitty, which is nice. But I have troubles and trifles and whatnot. But that's not even the main point, okay? It's not about me. It's about the suffering that I see other people going through. Because when I see a kid dying of cancer, I don't think, well, you know, thank God that's not me. But you have to explain that, and you can't without saying that your God is not one of these three things: all-loving, all-knowing, or all-powerful. You have to take at least one away. If you want my opinion, he's probably not any of them. Okay? If God actually does exist, he's not all-powerful because he clearly can't control evil. He's not all-loving because, what is it? All-loving, all-knowing, and all-powerful. I don't think he's any of the three. That's my point. I think that God is probably a little bit more like Zeus, if Zeus thought that he really was all-powerful. Just a huge piece of shit who has great control, but not control over everything, and doesn't actually know that much. Just kind of throws shit together and hope that it works out for the best.
Can't seem to get out of this hole of suffering and pain. I want to speak to you. I want you to know that there is a God who sees you. There is a God who loves you. And he
Omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, yes.
longs to have a relationship with you.
I don't know that much about
We don't
Greek mythology,
understand,
but I
we
know that
might not
Zeus
know
sucked.
why you're going through what you're going through, but he does. But God does. And I encourage you to go to him. He can give you peace through the pain. He can give you joy when you shouldn't have joy. He can.
You know who can give you peace through the pain?
We don't even know if God is a he. For all we know, God could be a theme bow.
A Vembo, yeah. True. Thank you very much for the 5 gifted tier 1 subsocket, Tanuki. Appreciate you very, very much. And very true. We don't know God's gender. But you know who can take away your pain, in a manner of speaking? The best person to go to who can bring joy back to your life and take away some pain is a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a mental health professional is the point. Unfortunately, thanks to dipshits like conservatives, who usually are religious, so it ties back, we can't afford that kind of care, usually. Okay? It's bullshit. It sucks. But at least psychiatrists are real. You know? At least they make themselves known to me. So even if I can't afford one, I know he's there. Listen, Blondie, I don't want anything to do with your stalker-ass sex pest god. True. Sex pest is being polite.
Be with you. God promises to be a heavenly Father who will always love you, and you can always go to him, and you can always turn to him, even when it seems like there's no hope. There's hope in Jesus, so I encourage you to go to him today. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you like this video. Please subscribe and comment down below if you haven't, and like this video to help boost the algorithm. And you might also like this video here.
Yeah, no thanks. Wait, this video here? This isn't a video. I think you're pointing the wrong direction, buddy. Okay, well, there we go. That was Elijah Zelk. Did not add a shred to that conversation himself, but he did sit there and watch stuff happen. And then, try to add to it. He did his best. You know what? A+ for effort. Gold star. You did your best, buddy. In all seriousness, if you want to make this a thing, I would say just react harder, bro. Don't know what else to tell you. Just react harder. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits, such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.